Okay, Thursday, August 25th. This is Thursday evening after the market closed. Going to do a SPY recap. Daily chart here. You could see today on Thursday had a big green bar to the upside. And this is a good example of, again, how you look at the multiple time frames, the daily, the weekly, the monthly. You kind of make assessments, what's developing, what it means if certain things happen. But in the end, you have to go by, at least, the way I look at things, the pre-market activity and the way price opens to then confirm what some of the what-if kind of scenarios you play out for yourself. So today, up until for these 3 days, I was still biased to the downside. And yet my best trade today was a nice long trade, and I was very much prepared for it because I was talking about how on the weekly chart, we were having a 2-down week, which targeted these areas, high probability. As long as, again, we'll get to it, that opening price action and daily structure leads me there. But I was always under the, I was always aware that if we didn't reach our targets, you can have a 2-down, we're in a big uptrend, in other words, on the monthly chart. And I could, I've gone over how we're kind of maybe forming a shooter bar here that can continue lower next month, but we still have a week, to 10 days to go. So with that uptrend in mind, I also know that if this weekly chart can't reach our targets, that could be a powerful just pause up here for a couple of bars, and we could start up strong. And again, that may or may not develop tomorrow in terms of how this bar closes at the end of the week. We'll find out, but that's a scenario that, again, I have in mind. And then if let's say we do close very strongly green tomorrow and this becomes a green week and we fail to take out our target, and that means to me likely we're going to go a 2-up week, next week and reach our highs again, I'll still have to go to the opening price action to guide me there. But when that if I have an up bias and I get a great open, that aligns in terms of all the pre-market action and the opening, price action once the bell rings, then that, just gives you more and more confidence to just go with the trade. But in this case, just looking at today, to recap, I outlined a scenario where we were capping up on the day pre-market. As long as we held the midpoint of the prior bar, I kind of was biased to the upside, but I also knew that pre-market wise, we had kind of come down from the, the initial open, early in the, in the mid-morning kind of thing. We were kind of coming lower. So I knew that if we came up to start, that was going to be a point of, a key point of resistance or a key point to monitor. And you can see what happened. We had a great opening that kind of failed, a red to green kind of move that I had discussed in the opening video, and it moved right up to that level. And that was your target, and that could have been your great trade for the day. You can see here it took all day. It just went sideways, 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 and eventually we closed strong. So all day there wasn't much opportunity, quite frankly. This was the trade, this very first move to that target, and then you watch for the breakthrough, and it really, all day long, if you were trying to trade in here, which I wasn't, but who knows, it's choppiness, and you still have the bias to the upside overall, certainly, because, you're above the midpoint of yesterday, and you went up here, and you're just kind of holding all day. But there weren't any easy trades other than that first trade of the day, and that's normally what happens. That's why, for me, I'm always looking at that first trade of the day, and I call it a primary move, either up or down, and then I watch whatever that intraday high or low is, and I make some decision if price action is leading me to test those areas again. Either, in this case, it would have been the intraday high of the day. Once we paused at some point, you could have gotten long here, expecting it to be tested again, and eventually got there by the end of the day. You would have had to wait a long time. But those were the two, one move up, 2 moves up. That's all it really was today. But that, again, this pre-market action really gave you the key resistance point and the key first target for that first trade. So anyway, what does that leave us? Big green bar. We now crossed above the open of Monday here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that turns the weekly chart green for the moment. And that's, it looks like I would, very, again, high probability. You see this big green bar, you're probably going to come up and test that high. No doubt about it. But then you're in this gap. So we know that in terms of the next target on the daily chart, this is a long way to go to get up there. And this gap can provide resistance. So let's say, for example, we open up and then immediately fail and come down to the halfway point of that bar, which is the sign we might be doing outside to the downside. If we come to the halfway point of that bar on the downside, that also aligns with the weekly open, turning red again, and let's just say it's a really big reversal day, the downside, and it comes all the way down. Then all of a sudden, this bar turns red again to end the week, and it looks like we'll follow through lower into next week and everything else. If this bar just holds the midpoint of this bar in some form, we'll see how the pre-market, and then starts higher. We're expecting it to continue higher, all the way up to here for now. I mean, to close, we'll see how strong it could be. After this day, you might just get great follow through. Even though you're in a gap area, and this closed strongly green, and that then will lead us to think that after the shooter to a hammer, you're going to get nice up action continuing. So it definitely biased to the long side. There's no doubt about it. We should take out that high in some point. I'm just saying, in case we either fail after taking that out and head down, or if somehow overnight action we start at the midpoint of this bar and start lower, then again we're below the open. That's the interesting thing about the midpoint of this bar. It's right at the open of the weekly open. So wherever price goes from there, based on the pre-market action, like I discussed, today, and the opening price action, we'll see whether the bias is strongly up, which we're anticipating. But we could easily, even though you're anticipating up, just showing how, depending what we get here tomorrow morning, we might, let's say we go up there, fail, and come down here in the open, and you could easily reverse to short and be just as comfortable that we're going to take out the low of this bar. If you can't predict it. I certainly have all these scenarios in my head about what the weekly chart's doing, the monthly chart. If we go up tomorrow, we get a nice close, we're back to a little better looking green bar, and who knows, maybe all next week we go up, and this is a nice solid green bar by the end of the month. So all these things, you're in your mind. You always got to be thinking ahead. What if? But in the end, you got to look at it's this intraday action that allows you, the pre-market activity and how price opens. I think that's critical to confirming all your different what if scenarios. So anyway, today was it was planned out ahead of time, at least the way I described it, that you could have gotten, this red to green move right here, target, and it was just very, we were thinking of that ahead of time. I was also thinking maybe breaking down ahead of time. I was thinking I was thinking maybe we would have opened up and failed here and went low. I'm thinking of all kinds of things, but you kind of watch how they open and where it leads you. So again, looks like a reversal is intact here. It looks like we can continue high tomorrow. I'm certainly looking to play that. Looks like this bar is getting ready to close green and then lead us higher into the weeks ahead. And it looks like this month might, in fact, actually not be a reversal month. We continue up, and maybe we continue higher, maybe to those, back to the broadening highs all the way up here, in the months ahead. So that's, I don't want to think too far ahead, but those are the things you think about. We'll see how it opens tomorrow. But today, interesting day of trading that looks like we might be failing on that down move, which is sort of surprising, but, not surprising in one sense, but given what we know to look for, not surprising at all.